Hello, friends. It's Nate here from WDA, and I wanted to share a couple of pointers with you about leading a WDA Institute group. There's a few things that make WDA groups unique from other small groups and Bible studies that people may have been a part of. And I wanted to emphasize a few of those things for our leaders so that people who are part of WDA groups are sure to experience the values and priorities of WDA coming out in their experience with a WDA training or group. So the thing that really sets WDA apart from other discipleship and training organizations is the RCAPS grid. As we've worked with some friends on developing the Leadership Institute, they've said to us, really, RCAPS is your secret sauce, isn't it? It really is what makes WDA work. And so if you look here on this section of the Leadership Institute, you'll see what makes the Leadership Institute different. It is that we have built every lesson of every module and every phase of our growth around this priority that we want to make sure that people are receiving truth in a relational format, that they are in deep relationship with other believers and with seasoned leaders, that there is biblical phase appropriate content at every point in their journey, that there is an accountability mechanism so that they can not only learn truth, but be expected to apply the truth in their day-to-day lives, that there is prayer happening with them and for them on their behalf at every stage of the journey, and that they are put in appropriate situations that challenge them and cause them to grow. This is what Jesus did with the 12 disciples, and we want to do no less in our own discipleship groups. If we do these 5 things in conjunction with each other, we will see growth. If we are lacking one of these things, then growth will be lacking. And I think that's really where you see a lot of discipleship programs fail, is they're primarily focused on content, or maybe they're primarily focused on relationship to the exclusion of content. Maybe they're just all about prayer, or maybe they're such an intense accountability sort of environment that there's no real growth that happens because it's only accountability without these other things. Or maybe they're not put in situations where they have to grow. Maybe they're kept in only comfortable situations and not pushed outside of their comfort zone into situations. So these are the things that I really want you to keep in mind as you are leading your discipleship groups. Every lesson, every week, be asking yourself, am I providing a relationship for these people? Both relationship with me as the leader and instructor, as well as fostering an environment where relationship with other students can happen. Am I giving them content that's good biblical content? And am I remembering to get to the lesson every week? Am I asking them, hey, how is this truth that we're learning about shaping your life? How is it changing your life? You know, often when I ask people the question, how is God growing you? Like, what is Jesus doing in your life this week? They struggle to find an answer. And it's a surprising question because not many people ask us that question, right? How are you growing? Like, what is shaping up in you? How is Christ forming in you? So being sure to ask the question, not in a judgmental or angry way, but just in a curious way. Like, what is God doing in your life? Not because I want to assess you or assign value to your life, but just because I want to help you and I'm interested in how you're growing. And then prayer. Am I providing a prayer filled environment in which I'm really asking God to work on behalf of their lives? Or am I just creating another human effort-based growth model or a self-improvement model. Discipleship is not a self-improvement strategy. It is a Holy Spirit infused supernatural transaction in which we engage God on the growth process. And so prayer is critical to that. And then again, am I providing appropriate situations, whether it's a ministry situation or a growth situation, a situation in that person's family, a situation that they're already involved in, but they haven't figured out how God's involved in it? Am I paying attention to the situations of this person's life and putting them in situations where they can grow? And so keeping these things in mind is so important, and understanding the type of relationship, content, accountability, prayer, and situation that's critical for that person's phase of development is also important. So for me, I'm going to be starting a phase 4 developing new leaders course, for instance, and I am going to be thinking, as I am recruiting students and beginning this course, what sort of, in phase 4A, what sort of relationship do they need with their leader? And it's a training relationship. I really want to be intentionally equipping and training these people. What kind of content will they need? Leadership principles, character, and teachings about the appropriate use of authority, because they're becoming young leaders. So I want to give them good food in those areas of content. What sort of accountability do they need? They need accountability to assume appropriate leadership responsibilities. And so I'm not just going to teach them. I'm going to ask them to assume some leadership in their own lives, their own ministries, and they're going to be developing their own disciple-making ministry in this phase of their growth. And prayer, I'm going to be praying for perspective and for wisdom. They're going to need a lot of it. They're moving into new kingdom realms, and really seeing God's power work in new ways through their leadership. It's going to be very tempting for them to think that they did it and that their success is attributable to their own effort. And it's not. It really is God's effort. And so I'm going to be asking God, Lord, just give them that perspective, give them that wisdom, and also give them the wisdom that's needed for a young leader to make good decisions. And finally, the situation they're going to be involved in is appointment to a leadership role. And so where we have stayed away from defining roles in ministry, now we are going to really put people into these new leadership roles and allow them to be developed within the context of that role. Previously, we've really allowed them to focus on a lot of new ministry skills that they need to learn, maybe things that they haven't been good at. In this phase, we're going to allow them to begin focusing on areas that they are strong. And so that's how I'm structuring each lesson. That's how I'm thinking about the development of the people in my group as I'm taking them through it. And it's a much bigger picture than just saying, well, I'm just their teacher, or I'm just their Bible study leader, and I'm just here to give them the content. Or, I have no responsibility for giving them content. I'm only here to just connect with them and fellowship with them. Neither of those would be appropriate. I do need to hold them accountable. I do need to pray, and I do need to put them in situations. So very important that these groups feel that way, that they feel as though my leader is holding these 5 things in tension at all times. That's why we have discussion-based groups rather than lecture groups. A lecture group is focused on content, but a discussion-based group is focused on content through relationship. And so, and that's why we do things like journaling exercises. That's why we ask people where they're growing. That's why we ask people to identify how they're going to apply these things. That's why we have a whole section in each guided discussion called Looking at My Life. That's the accountability piece that we're looking for. So I hope that helps. We really want growth for everyone in our groups. And I pray, we all pray, that God will show up mightily and powerfully in your group settings, and that as you keep these five key priorities in mind, that God will reward you with the very visible fruit being formed in the lives of the people that you are equipping and discipling.